This is a story about how all of the particles that eventually became all of the things on the planet began, with a particular emphasis on cells. Inside a huge spinning disk of dust, Earth began as a pint sized planetary pup warmed by the sun. But she couldn't stay small, our Earth. For millions of years, meteors crashed into Earth. Each one that smacked into her glowing red sides made her grow bigger and hotter. She began to melt and turn herself inside out over and over. Her sizzling red lava spewed into vast glowing seas. It's a good thing you weren't human back then. You would have burned to a crisp in a flash. But you were there as particles of stardust churning inside Earth's oceans of liquid rock. Meteors finally stopped bombing Earth. She cooled and her crust hardened. Steamy clouds cooled too and condensed into drops of water. These clouds surrounded the Earth in a blanket, the atmosphere. It was glorious when the great rain began. The deluge began as droplets screamed toward the Earth from the clouds above. They got closer and closer, but the red hot surface of the Earth evaporated the first droplets that fell. But over time, as the deluge continued, it cooled the air closer and closer and closer to the surface of the Earth until finally the great oceans began to fill and cover the Earth. Molten red rocks pushed up through volcanoes, exploding up through the cracks in the ocean floor. Lightning bolts zapped the seas. Rock, water, and air churned up and crashed, and bits of carbon made inside of stars hooked together into long chains that folded and looped into tiny slippery bubbles. And then the most amazing thing happened. The teensy bubbles began to twist and turn. Not only when waves crashed or lightning flashed, but on their own. Earth was alive. Even now, these ancient living things, the very first earthlings, are living nuts and bolts of all life. These tiny slippery bubbles of creatures called bacteria are in every breath you take. Millions, billions are in every handful of soil. Billions more live and work inside you. Right now, they're helping to digest your breakfast. Oh, yes, some of them, bacteria, can make you sick, but lots more give you life. Right from the start, 4,000 million years ago, bacteria were hungry. Their food was hydrogen, the very first element created in the universe. Bacteria ate it right out of the gas bubbles gurgling up from cracks in the ocean floor. The ones who couldn't eat hydrogen perished. Those who could lived and split apart and became more bacteria. Bacteria passed on their special knowledge through invisible chains of carbon called DNA. DNA is a code that stores information. Bacteria can rub up against each other, and one can give its DNA, its code, to another. That's how they pass around information about the latest techniques for chowing down on hydrogen. Bacteria, Absorbing new information about diets and lifestyles was a cinch. They were fast learners. Some learned to eat iron. Some set up shop on the mouths of fiery volcanoes. Others journeyed to polar ice caps. Wherever bacteria went, they traded information through their global network, the very first worldwide web. And it was bacteria. Everywhere in the oceans, mounds of bacteria, really cities, rose in those shallow waters. Bacteria that lived on top ate rays of light and, seemingly like magic, transformed sun energy into food. What wizards they